first and foremost, really, thank you for inviting me and having me here. This is a wonderful group just because of what you do and what you stand for, and I'm totally behind you 100%. I think today I just really, if we could, just talk about us. I had received a book from a friend of mine, and it was a book about all women in the Bible. And I had started reading it, and then I actually realized after all these years, we are not so different. We are still the same women. And that's how I came up with my, God gave us 5 senses, but he also gave women 5 extra things to stand up against the thing. He gave us a double dose because he knew we were going to have to handle things in this life. And the 5 things after the 5 senses that he gave us was he made us very loving, nurturing, he made us strong, intelligent, and he made us fighters. Oh. And those are the 5 things that God equipped us with, along with the 5 senses. And I really actually stand by that. And even in some of the readings that I was reading about women, it's the same issues that we dealt with today. Women love family. We love our children. And we do anything we can for our family and for our children. The first one that caught my eye was in Exodus when Moses' mother, but it was a huge group. It was 5 women. Everybody talks about Moses' mother, but it goes on before that, how women took a stand. It was 2 women that went against Pharaoh and wouldn't kill the children. And then it was Pharaoh's mother and his sister who hid him for all those months. And then when she did what she did in the river, it was the sister that followed him to see where he went. And then the 5th woman was Pharaoh's daughter, who just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And a lot of us are that. We are interveners. We want to make things right. We want to make things better. But even it goes into who we are today. We're still the same strong, intelligent women that there were back then. But I think one thing that I've learned is that somewhere along the line, from when we are knee-high and we're very pure and loving, as we get older and go through different things, life happens. And somewhere along those years of life, we seem to forget who we are. And we slowly lose that because of the things that we experience in life and the things that we go to. Or the things that we actually couldn't fix, we couldn't make work, whether it's relationships, and that's usually what it is. Relationships doesn't always have to be with a spouse, but it could be a relationship with friends, relationship with family, relationship with children. And so that is one thing that I love my mother for. My mother was raised Catholic, but she grew up in a alcohol, domestic violence infested home. But my mother overcame certain issues in her life that her mother allowed her to experience that she refused to pass on to her children. We did not grow up in an alcohol, domestic violence infested home. My mother made sure that she protected us from that because that's what she went through. And she was determined not to allow her children to experience those things. But my mother didn't bring down her mother's issues to us, but my mother had her own issues. So I do appreciate and thank my mother for not carrying on her mother's baggage along with hers, because that would have been a lot for us to handle as children. And then I fight to make sure that my children, their lives are also different. So my oldest daughter, who is 17, is a senior this year, but she was a junior last year. And I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden it just hit me that she's going to be leaving my house. And I felt like I needed her to really have a clear understanding of life. And everything that we had talked about, all the things that I tried to instill in her, all the things that she's learned, it started out, I just was writing her a letter, which I had done several times before. When she started junior high, I wrote her a letter then. When she was in elementary school, I wrote her a letter. And you know how they have all the school supplies? We would flip through a notebook and go to the last few pages and just write, be strong, you can do it. If today's not a good day, turn it around. Just those kind of things we did. And so I started out actually writing her a simple letter that I have done in the past. When she would go through different things and I could see that there was something deep going on, and she really wouldn't tell me everything, but she would kind of give me just enough, like, yeah, something's going on at school. And so I would write her a letter, and I specifically wrote her a letter in great detail, my perception of each of her friends. I wouldn't pick her friends for her, but I just wanted her to know them. Know your friends, and if you choose to be friends with them, so be it. But I just wanted to make sure that she could see them for who they were, and that she could really understand deeper than her level of thinking, because I've been there, done that. And I think that's the one thing that we, growing up, even me, myself, we don't really get it when our parents have been there and done that. They've experienced it. Scenarios may be different. Everything's not going to be the same. But sometimes I try to figure out our situations aren't unique, because somebody has been where I've been, and they could actually help me if I listen and give them the advice that they need. So I kept that for her, and there was one time I was doing something, cleaning the room, and I actually found that letter stuck in a little place where she had some different things, but she hid it with some other things that I think were important to her. But I wanted it to be written because I felt like she could always, if she needed that encouragement, or if she needed that letter when she was going off to college and I couldn't be there, she could go back to that letter and she could read it, and it would bring everything back up. So what started out as a simple 2-page letter to my daughter, all of a sudden it's 5. But then it even went beyond her. I started thinking about all girls and the things that we go to. And just listen to you rattle off the statistics. Girls are 1 in 3, 1 in 4, 1 in 6. Men are 1 in 33. And I thought, something has to change. And the change has to start at a very young age. Any of us can change. Even any of us in the room, we can change for the better. But I want the change to start while they're young, and they're still so tender and so pure, and so they don't have to lose all that strength, all the things that we are. They don't have to lose them as life experience goes on, and then refine them, recreate them, bring them back. But they could keep them and grow with it, and actually become out stronger, because there are some tough blows in life that are very hard to overcome. There are some things that I watched my mother go through. That's why I wanted to be the strongest influence in all my children. And I have a son. I wanted to be the strongest influence in all my children's lives. But I am first, I am a female, and I can relate to my daughters so well, where my husband misses it all. He will miss certain things, and I can call it out just like that. I mean, my daughter, her expressions on her face, I know exactly what she's thinking. When she's getting ready to cry, she tries to hold it in. I can read her like a book. But my mother did me the exact same way. My mother was so good of discerning. She could tell me a boy it was not the one. It wasn't going to work out. But I went through that heartache, and I went through that pain. But she would hit it on the head every time. But my mother had also been through some hardships of her own. That's why it was so easy for her to tell. So it's easy to look through the rooms, and you can look at the eyes of a person, and you can tell they have been through some hard times. They have had some broken hearts. And there are some things that are still seeing what seems like a long process of healing that's going on. But it just happens every day. But there are some experiences in life that I feel that we as women have already had to endure. So I think that other young ladies and young women should learn from, not endure the same hardship. Because where some of us are overcomers and actually came out of those, some won't. And what really broke my heart, even after writing the book, first I thought I was just going to start passing this little piece of paper out to all my daughter's friends and everybody. And then I thought, well, who's going to read papers this thick? How do I get this information out to anybody that will listen and actually take something from it? Well, recently here in Enid, the 2 young ladies, the one attempt and the one success of the suicide and the death, neighbors, 2 houses down, and then the attempt further down the street. It crushes you, even as a woman, because you get it. You understand what just happened. And it does something to you to know that any young person could find that there is no hope because of what someone else has done to them. And it breaks you. And you want to figure out a way to do things differently. You want to find a way to get there before they get that point. And you're like, how does a neighbor feel that way? And you don't know. Then you look at her mother and you're wondering, I don't know, you can only imagine what mother goes through. So, and then for it to be so close, in your own backyard, and then for people to act like it doesn't exist, well, it does. I mean, you can pull the shades down all you want, you can close your door, you can plug your ears, but it exists. And we, as women, this group, what you all do, I am impressed. But it's something that was so needed. And every one of you in this room, there is a young lady out there who you may have not even met. Could be me, could be my daughter, could be your grandchildren. That one day, the things that we went through, and this is what I have to tell myself, everything I went through is not in vain. One day, somebody is going to need me. So maybe that's why God took us through some of the things we went through, or allowed us to go through some of those terrible things, because someday, some young lady is going to need us, just like your granddaughter is in college. Somebody is going to need us one day, and maybe I'm going to have to be that one. You're going to have to be that one. You're going to have to be that one. We are going to have to be that one, and we are going to be the one where others have tried to reach, but they couldn't. Mothers have tried to talk to their children, but they couldn't reach them. Some people only believe experience alone. You haven't been there, so you can't tell me anything. But there's going to be some young lady, somebody somewhere, that's going to need you sooner than we think. So the strength and love and the encouragement and the support that you bring to one another, youth, I feel like we're losing them. And when I say youth, I mean male and female. But as a woman, I can give a young girl something that I cannot give a young man. There are certain areas in a young man's heart that they have been through things just like we have. But I will not be able to penetrate him like I can a young lady. So, women, they call us the weaker vessel. But we're always needed, always looked to, always the one that people rely on for several things. We are the strength of the world, and behind every president that has come before us, every leader, who stands behind him? Who do you think he trusts more than his cabinet? Who do you think counsels him? Who do you think encourages him and builds him up when he's down? And every good man, whether it's your pastors, whether it's, I don't care if it's a president of the United States, whether it's military, behind everybody, there's a strong woman in the background. Half the men who are where they are today is because a lot of us, we step back from our goals and dreams to hold the family together. Let him do what he wants to do first. And we are the glue that's holding everything together. But behind every good person, there's always a strong woman beside them. Leading, guiding, directing, holding their hand, holding them up, encouraging them, patting them on the back, lifting them up when they're down. But just like we do it all the time, that's why I say when God equipped us with the 5 things, the love, the nurture, the strength, the intelligence, and the fight. That's why we're survivors. That's why we don't give up. And everyone is so confused behind why a woman in a domestic violence relationship stays. Everyone focuses on the beatings and the bruising, which will fade. But the strongest denominator in that everyone seems to forget is love. What is more powerful? Love that hides the multitude of faults. that is the strongest connection, love. But those are also the things that make the world so beautiful. The love that we have, the love that we give, the love that we share. And it's what's going to help us to continue. We just have to know that we're in it together. We can change it. We can make a difference. We can make a great outcome. And I think in time, we can turn things around. And that's really all I'm going to talk about. It's just us. Oh, yes, ma'am.
I wanted to tell you, one of the best things the YWCA has ever done has been the Girl Power. You know, once a year, about this time, about October, they have what's called Girl Power.
Yep.
And
she's the coordinator of that.
it's wonderful. When I used to have a gift shop down here in Heritage Hills, and every year I would get 150 bags and take things out of my shop. Lip gloss, candy, earrings, and I would fill those bags up and take them to the Y. And
You're the coordinator?
help them put gift bags together. And to me, you know, that's what ages about 10 or 11 to about 14. And that is the perfect time to address how powerful girls can be if they have a little boost behind them, see a little success, see some confidence. So my hat's off to you, because that to me is one of their greatest accomplishments, is Girl Power Rally.
Awesome.
The greatest thing a parent can do is empower their girls from the time they're this little. You know, you start teaching empowerment when they start walking. So when they leave your house to go to college or to start their career, they are empowered women. That's what needs to go out in the world. And you do your best to protect them while they're growing up. But you can help them get over what happens while they're growing up. But when they go out in that world, they need to be empowered. But parents don't do that. They really don't. I guess they don't know how.
That's part of it, because if you were raised in an abused home, sometimes you don't know how to empower your children,
That's right.
much less empower yourself.
That's right.
Because if you don't have someone behind you with that strength and all those little things, like your mom took you out of it, and I took my children out of that cycle.
Yes.
You know, because I was raised it didn't mean that I need to raise my children in. I broke that cycle. So but if the cycle continues, there's no way that you can teach your children any other thing. You have to empower yourself.
Right.
And you have to find it. You know,
Well, if you're not empowered, you can't empower your girls.
Yeah.
Right, but so many people continue that cycle. Those cycles go from generation to generation to generation. I mean, it goes on for like, 10, 15 generations until somebody decides we've had enough, and they get therapy, they find out what they need to do, and they empower their children. That's the only way you can break that cycle.
Right. Sometimes even through, like you said, the girl power, I'm sorry. Sometimes that setting or that sort of group is the only seed that's dropped in girls who are in a different situation at home, because everybody's home life is very different. And so sometimes the only little planting they get is through a girl power group or through a teacher that puts them under their wing, because they're not getting it at home, because like you said, it's just a cycle that continues, and somebody has to break that cycle.
Women in here needed woman power together.
Right.
One of the things that I kick myself in the rear end the most for is that I didn't do that for my daughter, because I was in the process of losing my power when she was little. and didn't get out of it until she was grown. So, and it wasn't abusive. I mean, not physically abusive. It was emotional abuse. But I did manage to buffer a lot, so she is stronger than I was.
Good.
But I still, that's one thing, is I did not give her an example of a woman who won't take crap off a man.
I'm gonna say, girl power started just like Lemonade Ladies.
Huh.
Jessica went to
I was the
first
youth,
ones.
I was the youth director. And in my prayer time, God said, I want you to do this girl power rally. I had heard about it and previously, and I'm like, no, there's enough on my plate. 3 months later, went to the executive director, and she said, yes, there was 131 girls the first year.
Wow.
In my prayer time, God said, I want my girls empowered. I want my ladies and my girls to know how important they are, how loved they are, and what a difference they can make. It's just like Lemonade Ladies has come to be. That's how
Is girl power nationwide?
It used to be, but then they lost their funding. And so Shalonda, God has called, anointed, and appointed her. That's what I tell her. God has called and anointed and appointed her. She did a fantastic job, and girl power is going to grow. And, you know, as Lemonade Ladies grows, we can empower all the young ladies in our community too.
I think Jessica was at that first one.
This year already?
We did. We just had it on Saturday.
That's what I wondered.
My daughter used to go to girl power when she was younger.
Was
So
there a
did
good
Jessica.
turnout?
Yeah, we had 80 ladies, 80 young
That's
girls.
great.
Yes,
That's 80 little bitty minds and hearts that
That's
you
right.
touched.
that's right.
I have a statement and 2 questions. You said about the young girls. We recently had, after Robin Williams committed his suicide, a young girl in Enid, teenage girl, had killed herself, and her friend had attempted, but she didn't get the job done. And you said it's in our own backyard. It's actually in this very room because Mona was like her grandmother. So you never know how close something like that is. She wasn't her blood grandmother, but she was her heart grandmother.
I kind of feel out of place because I was not born and raised in a violent home. My son that has passed was, but I broke that away. But anyway, my girls have that women, you know, you're not going to do me this way attitude. I have 2 wonderful son-in-laws, and they're bringing in their children up with that nonviolent in the home, non-alcohol in the home. And my little granddaughter, she's just something else. But it's going to take a lot of these generations, like my daughters and your daughters, to change the world. I mean, it's going to change the way men behave, you know. But I had to deal with it, and they were looking at me in a second marriage, and they were like, Mother, you're the one that's always told everybody, don't let this happen. It can happen to you. It can happen to you. It can happen to any woman. You can think that, I would never put up with that. But it can happen, and they can brainwash you and make you think that you have no choice. You have no option. They can do that to you. If they did it to me, if a man did it to me, it can be done to anybody. And I broke out of it, and I brought a son out of it with me. And I lost him in March. But I agree with you about the girls, because I have wonderful daughters, and I'm so proud that they never took any crap off of any man ever. They just would never do that. So what you're doing is so needed, because the lady was talking about the teenagers and the boyfriends running their lives, and they were so young, and they would still be with this jerk, you know, because they thought they had to. That starts really early. And I support what you're doing a lot. I wholeheartedly too. I think that's a wonderful thing.
Well, I can't imagine how you're so strong and loving, and she came to Golden Oaks, and she's volunteering with the senior citizens now. And
It's either that or go get into a bottle and stay in bed.
Just in March is when she lost her
And
son.
it's either get up and help somebody and feel useful in this world, or never get out of the bed, or never get out of a bottle. And I have to tell myself every morning to get up and find something worth doing, because I don't want his name His death to me nothing. I'm gonna start an awareness group about prescription drugs. I'm not trying to make this about me, y'all. But my own prescription drugs were locked up, and teenagers want these drugs, these hydrocodones and these Xanaxes. And my son had never done any of them, you know, but he knew I had them. And I kept them locked up because you can't, I mean, people, you know, they'll steal them. They will steal them. So I've always kept mine locked up. And I was fixing to open a store. And I just went to, have y'all heard about where you bid on storage rooms that people have been in? They should, and you make bids on them, and I just got my first one, and I got to open it that night. And I was so happy, and I was fixing to open my little thing in the store. And the man that I was involved with to get the business going, we were going to go eat, and we tried to get Jacob to go, you know, celebrate. He chose not to. He broke into my room. He stole my drugs to go sell to another little boy that was bothering him about them. But anyway, I want to go explain to these, and they're changing the law on that hydrocodone in October, that it's a 3-page script. It's going to be like Red Land or anything else. You're going to have to go through a lot of trouble to get it. But there's so many of us that will have a toothache or backache, and we'll get a prescription of those, and we just put them up. I might need those. It'll make you sick. We might need those one day, and you stick them back in the cabinet or in the kitchen drawer. Here comes the grandchild or the child. They know what that is. Get rid of that drug if you're not taking it. Because the boy that wanted the drugs from my son's father showed up early from work. So my son had both the Xanax and the hydrocodone in his pocket. He knew I called the police on him because he was going to go sell them. He already told me he had sold them. He was going to sell them. And Mom, I don't know why you're so upset. I'm going to make so much money. You can go get some more. I'm going to have some more. He had no idea what he was doing. And I just sent him to his room. I said, son, I love you, but I'm so mad at you right now. I don't know what to say to you. And he went out his window. And he had told me when I first got home, before I noticed, he had broke my door in and ransacked my bathroom. He kept hugging on me, and he was kind of lethargic, and he was like, Mama, you're the best, coolest mom. I love you so much, and I don't know why I'm always messing up and doing bad things. And he said, you're going to be really mad at me when you go in the house, you know, because we were very close. But it took me months to get the results. I don't know if he did it on purpose or if it was an accident. And if you mix these two pills, a little bit too much of both of them will cause swelling of the heart. So they ruled him as an accidental suicide. So these pills need to be out of cabinets if we're not taking them, and if you are, you need to lock them up. Because these kids, even in junior high and elementary school, they know what these pills are. And other kids talk about them, and they want them. And I'm going to try to go on with this because Jacob, I learned a lot about my son when he died. I learned things that I would have never taught my son. He was always trying to help people, encourage people to do good. I always thought he was a little jerk brat half the time. You know, I loved him to death, and I never laid a hand on him, but I would try to correct him and scold him, and he would get me so tickled, you know, with his humor.